Happy Monday, everyone. This is Martha from Nature Niche, and I'm coming to you on location from the Vintage Inn at Veritas Estate in South Haven, Michigan. Um, and I am in front of what bed and breakfast owners Tim and Sherry have named Oakbeard, after the Lord of the Rings tree giant character, the Ent Treebeard. Oakbeard here is a wolf tree, and that means that it is much older. Sometimes they're 100 to 200 years older than the surrounding trees in a forest, and they tend to have an open crown form. They were once very open grown without neighbor trees, and you get these huge, big reaching arms for branches that really indicate that. So the term wolf tree can be applied to any tree species. Often it's applied to very old oaks and pine trees. The terminology originated from foresters in the late 1900s who believed, erroneously, that the old massive trees were devouring too much space and sunlight, that they preyed on forest resources like wolves do, and prevented the growth of smaller, more marketable timber trees. And like wolves were believed at the time, they should be culled out of the forest. So as a result, they were often eliminated from the landscape, similar to how wolves were being hunted down for consuming too many forest resources. And then once removed, trees with a higher market value were planted in their place. So quoting Michael Gage in an American Forest article, and I'll provide a link for that, he says, "Happening upon a gnarled old tree, one cannot resist being pulled in. It is charismatic and animated. Its limbs reach wide like arms. These are the trees of childhood imagination, the trees of fairy tales and folklore. These are the trees of sprites and gnomes and enchanted woodlands. Wolf trees are our Ents. Wolf trees are also the storybooks of American history." So wolf trees indicate the past landscape conditions. They've been around long enough to have witnessed Native American cultural practices, which included the use of fire for vegetation management, and they witnessed European settlement and clearing for agriculture and pasture lands. They were the roost sites for passenger pigeons until we pushed that bird species to extinction. They are often old pasture trees, testaments to the property's former life in agriculture, not always, but sometimes. And often farmers would leave a few nut-bearing trees to provide shade and free food for their livestock in these pastures. And that open pasture surrounding the tree would allow it to grow wide, capturing as much sun as possible. Truly, these wolf trees are the elders of the forest. Some lucky wolf trees were able to remain in place. Either the landowners valued their aesthetics, often they were to help mark property boundaries. And when a farmer abandoned a field or a pasture, these surrounding trees would move in and start growing very quickly. And because there's now great competition for sunlight among many trees, these new trees grew tall and straight, and eventually they would surpass the height of the pasture-grown tree. So, and also because there was no or little use of fire to manage tree competition and other vegetation, at this point in history, we were really doing an awful lot of fire suppression across the landscape. Then, all of this tree competition ensued, and that increased shade, and that was the beginning of the decline for many wolf trees. And this is the irony. Now the surrounding trees are shading out the wolf trees, and it's not the wolf trees, you know, competing or out competing these new trees. So this increased shade forces these large trees to shut down branches that don't get enough sun. So you'll often see these large dead limbs low in the canopy. And what we can do is some management to help thin encroaching trees. It's important to do this over several years. You don't want to shock the leaves, the bark, the roots of the wolf trees. In this case, a beautiful large northern red oak. And in doing that, you can girdle surrounding trees. They'll die slowly, and then that'll create new snags, smaller snags for wildlife, while letting some more light reach the wolf tree. And this is particularly true on sites with southern aspects where the wolf tree could get scorched if you open up that canopy really quickly, or on sides facing really strong winds. So you want to make slow changes over a long amount of time. Girdling the emerging trees can work well. You do need to be mindful of falling branches and small trees. Those can create a hazard for woodland walkers. So you want to be careful about where you're doing that, not right next to structures or trails. And certainly the wildlife will appreciate new standing dead trees that are created with this management. And the wolf trees are a great value as seed trees. And in the United Kingdom, there's a similar phenomenon of ancient trees. They call them veteran trees over there. And that's attracted a lot of attention. And there's a book, Veteran Trees, A Guide for Good Management, by Helen Reed, and this outlines how to manage young trees encroaching on veteran trees. So that's another great resource that you could take a look at. So it wasn't until the 1945 or so, or maybe even later, that the virtues were really recognized of these wolf trees. And so they support immense biodiversity. They have loose bark, dead limbs, cracks, crevices, cavities that support insects, our bird populations. There was a study done that showed 20 to 1 birds spent more time foraging around wolf trees, and 30 to 1 our songbirds spent more time singing in these big, beautiful wolf trees. It's great habitat for bats and other mammals, snakes, and it takes at least 100 to 200 years for these features that wildlife depends upon to actually develop. So these wolf trees are termed keystone structures in the ecosystem, and that means that the effects they have, those positive effects on the landscape, are disproportionate to their actual abundance. Wolf trees are like the forest town square for our local animals. So a single wolf tree can support a variety of species within an ecosystem, lots of insects, mammals, amphibians, birds, fungi, and other microflora, and many, many more things. And so I was talking to the owners of the Vintage Inn, and they were saying they love Oakbeard here. It produced 20 pounds of mushrooms known as hen of the woods for them to use in some of their delicious recipes that they make here themselves. And it just has lovely visual impact, being this big, giant tree that stands out in their woodland around the Vintage Inn. And they love pointing it out to guests as they're eating breakfast and admiring their woodland. So there's also a whole property managed by the Southwest Michigan Land Conservancy. That's in Oshtemo Township, Kalamazoo County here in Michigan. and it's called Wolf Tree Nature Trails. So there's another great place to visit to see iconic oak wolf trees. And those at that property remind us of that particular landscape's natural heritage being open, oak barren ecosystem in the past, and that's their restoration goals reflect that. So that's another great place to visit. So I just wanted to introduce that concept of wolf trees, share Oakbeard with you. It's a lovely specimen, and help you understand that wolf trees provide so much ecological and cultural significance in our landscape. So let's do our best to recognize and protect and enjoy them. Take care. Have a good week.